A body falling from the sky should tear itself apart. High above the jagged ridges of the mountains, the air is thin and bitterly cold. The world below is a sprawling tapestry of greens and browns, segmented by the winding ribbons of ancient rivers. Up here, in the freezing void above the tree line, silence reigns absolute. A single shape holds its position against the high-altitude currents. It is a solitary stalker, the apex carnivore of the open sky. The peregrine falcon waits in the freezing stillness. It rides the invisible thermal columns with microscopic adjustments of its primary feathers. The wind shears violently across its sleek back. Yet, the bird appears perfectly motionless. It is a creature suspended in potential energy. Far below, a speck of movement registers against the valley floor. A pigeon is crossing the open expanse. It is entirely unaware of the lethal surveillance positioned thousands of feet above. The distance is vast. The gap seems impossible to bridge before the prey finds cover. This is the great puzzle of the open sky. To catch a meal in this endless blue arena, a hunter must outpace the very concept of flight. It must weaponize gravity. The falcon alters its posture. It tips forward. The broad wings fold sharply back against its body. The tail feathers close tightly together. The silhouette transforms from a soaring bird into a living missile, and then it drops. The acceleration is immediate and brutal. Gravity seizes the mass of the hunter and pulls it toward the earth. The air, which only moments ago provided buoyant lift, suddenly becomes a hostile force. It becomes a dense wall of resistance. The wind roars. The sound builds from a low hiss to a deafening, tearing shriek. The falcon is now in a vertical stoop. This is the most extreme maneuver in the natural world. It is a plunge that tests the absolute limits of biological engineering. Radar tracks of wild falcons routinely suggest a confirmed speed of roughly 184 kilometers per hour during these dives. This alone is a staggering velocity for a living creature. It is faster than the terminal velocity of a human skydiver in a standard belly-to-earth position. But the puzzle deepens. The ultimate limits of this dive push into the realm of the unbelievable. Under precise experimental conditions, a highly trained peregrine falcon has been recorded at a staggering 389 kilometers per hour. This number shatters our understanding of animal locomotion. It is a figure that seems to belong to high-performance machinery, not a bundle of hollow bones and feathers. To move at nearly 400 kilometers an hour through the lower atmosphere is to invite destruction. At these speeds, the air pressure is colossal. It is a crushing, physical weight. If a human were exposed to a sudden blast of wind at that velocity, the results would be catastrophic. Our lungs would overinflate and rupture. The soft tissues of our eyes would dry out, tear, or burst under the sheer mechanical force. The puzzle is how any biological organism can withstand these physical forces without disintegrating. The falcon is not a machine of titanium and glass. It is made of organic matter. Yet, it plunges straight through the danger zone. The solution lies concealed within the microarchitecture of the bird's anatomy. The first profound challenge is vision. At extreme speed, the world becomes a chaotic blur. A single missed calculation means slamming into the earth. The falcon must maintain absolute visual lock on a moving target while hurtling downward. To solve this, the peregrine falcon processes visual information incredibly fast. Human eyes perceive motion smoothly at around 24 frames per second. The falcon operates on an entirely different spectrum. Its flicker fusion frequency sits at roughly 129 Hz. This means the falcon sees the world in hyper-slow motion. A frantic, darting pigeon appears to be lazily floating through the air. The falcon can track every singular wing beat. It can predict every microscopic change in trajectory. But seeing the target is only half the battle. The eyes must survive the wind. To protect the vital corneas from the scouring force of the air, a translucent third eyelid sweeps across the globe. This nictitating membrane clears away debris while maintaining crystal-clear vision. The falcon descends with its goggles firmly in place. The second, even more critical challenge is respiration. At hundreds of kilometers an hour, the rush of air into the nostrils should be fatal. The pressure would instantly burst the delicate air sacs within the bird's respiratory system. The air is moving too fast to breathe. Evolution provided an elegant, mechanical solution. Inside the falcon's nostrils are tiny, bony tubercles. These small, spiraling cones act as highly specialized baffles. They violently disrupt the incoming airflow. The tubercles force the rushing wind to swirl and slow down. They create localized shock waves just outside the nasal cavity. This brilliant adaptation regulates the air pressure perfectly. It transforms a lethal blast of wind into a gentle, breathable breeze. Human engineers later copied this exact biological design. They placed identical metal cones inside the intakes of supersonic jet engines to prevent them from stalling. With its eyes shielded and its lungs protected, the Falcon continues its terrifying descent. It is a masterclass in physics and biology working in absolute unison. The ground rushes up, the gap closes. But the dive is only one piece of an ancient, ongoing war. This staggering velocity did not emerge overnight. The perfection of the stoop is the result of a ruthless arithmetic spanning geological ages. The Peregrine Falcon is an ancient design. In the deep past, long before humans walked upright, the ancestors of these birds were already commanding the skies. The first fossil appearance of the species dates back roughly 2.6 years ago, during the Gelasian period. Since the continents shifted into their modern configurations, the peregrine has been engaged in an endless arms race. 2.5 million years of trial, error, and sudden death. Over thousands of generations, every weakness was brutally pruned from the bloodline. Only the fastest, most precise hunters survived to reproduce. This deep time perfection allowed the falcon to conquer the globe. Today, the peregrine falcon is one of the most widely distributed birds in the world. They have crossed oceans and colonized continents. Their geographic range is truly beyond human scale. You can find them riding the updrafts of the Andes. You can watch them circle above the sweeping tundras of the Arctic. They hunt over the arid deserts of the Middle East and the dense, humid rainforests of the tropics. They are absent only from the most extreme polar environments and the isolated islands of New Zealand. Everywhere else, they represent the ultimate airborne threat. Global dominance requires massive adaptability. A predator cannot survive on a single source of food across wildly different ecosystems. The puzzle of their success is their dietary versatility. Peregrines hunt an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 species of birds globally. This means they hunt up to a fifth of all known bird species on Earth. From tiny, erratic songbirds to heavily armored waterfowl, the falcon's menu is as vast as its territory. But the prey have not been idle over these millions of years. Evolution demands equilibrium. If the predator develops a devastating new weapon, the prey must invent a shield. The long war in the sky has produced some of the most unsettling and spectacular defenses in nature. Consider the European starling. Individually, a starling is slow. It is an easy, soft target for a diving falcon. But a starling rarely flies alone. When a peregrine approaches a feeding ground, the starlings take to the air by the tens of thousands. They form a massive, undulating murmuration. It is a towering, shifting cloud of black wings. The flock moves as a single, fluid superorganism. The falcon climbs above the murmuration. It searches for a straggler. It looks for a moment of weakness. It initiates a stoop. Instantly, the flock reacts. Starlings use rapid agitation waves to evade peregrine attacks. As the predator closes in, the starlings nearest the danger suddenly pack densely together. They then violently expand outward. This creates mesmerizing, pulsing dark bands that ripple rapidly through the flock. From the outside, it looks like ink spreading through water. For the diving falcon, it is a visual nightmare. The agitation waves act like a strobe light in the falcon's highly tuned eyes. The sheer volume of moving targets overloads the predator's visual processing. The 12.9 Hz flicker fusion rate, usually an advantage, is flooded with conflicting data. The falcon cannot lock onto a single bird. Confused and blinded by the shifting mass, the killer often breaks off the attack. To overcome these defenses, the falcon must diversify its hunting strategies. And to maximize their chances of survival, a bonded pair of falcons relies on a strange physical trait. In the falcon's world, size matters immensely, but not in the way one might expect. The equilibrium of the species requires a massive disparity between the sexes. Observe a pair resting on a high rock face. The male, known as a tiercel, is sleek and compact. He is built for extraordinary agility. Beside him sits the female. The size difference is jarring. Female peregrines are significantly larger than males, boasting a size advantage of roughly 30%. This sexual dimorphism in size is an elegant solution to a critical puzzle. They do not just look bigger. The mass difference is profound. Females can weigh up to 50% more than their mates. She is a colossal, heavily muscled powerhouse compared to the nimble male. This is not a random genetic quirk. It is a carefully calibrated trade-off. If both birds were the same size, they would hunt the exact same prey. They would deplete the local resources around their nest twice as fast. They would become competitors. Instead, the smaller male targets agile, erratic prey. He hunts swallows, swifts, and small songbirds. He relies on rapid, twisting pursuits. The massive female takes on the heavy lifting. She uses her crushing weight to target much larger game. She hunts ducks, gulls, and heavy grouse. Her increased mass translates to devastating kinetic energy during a dive. Together, the pair casts a massive dietary net over their territory. They exploit two entirely different weight classes of prey. It is an evolutionary masterstroke. But even this ancient perfection would soon face a puzzle it could not solve with biology alone. For over 2 million years, the peregrine falcon's world was defined by natural geology. They required sheer, inaccessible cliff faces. They needed high, rocky ledges overlooking open valleys or vast coastlines. The geography of the earth dictated where they could live and breed. Then, the landscape changed. Humanity multiplied. We paved over the hunting grounds. We leveled the ancient forests. We built towering structures of glass, steel, and concrete. We created entirely new artificial ecosystem. For many apex predators, this rapid expansion was a death sentence. The delicate balance was broken. Wolves, bears, and big cats retreated to the vanishing margins of the wilderness. Peregrine falcon faced the same existential threat. The puzzle was straightforward. Adapt to the noise, the pollution, and the vertical geometry of the human world, or perish. Falcon did not retreat, it adapted. Look up from the crowded, chaotic streets of any major global metropolis, past the blaring traffic, past the neon signs, up toward the dizzying heights of the skyscrapers. There, on the cold concrete ledges and ornamental gargoyles, the ultimate wild predator has made its home. Peregrines have successfully adapted to nesting on human-made structures. To the mind of a falcon, a 70-story office building is indistinguishable from a limestone cliff. It provides the exact same benefits. It offers a commanding view, powerful updrafts, and complete isolation from ground-dwelling predators. The modern city is a synthetic mountain range, and it is teeming with life. The move to the city required a significant dietary shift. The varied flocks of the wild valleys were gone. In their place was a highly resilient, highly abundant new resource. Feral pigeons are the staple food for urban peregrines. The cities are flooded with them. They roost on air conditioners. They forage in public squares. They are slow, plump, and completely oblivious to threats from above. To the urban falcon, the city is an endless, all-you-can-eat buffet. Concrete canyons provide a unique hunting ground. The thermals generated by millions of square feet of heated asphalt create powerful updrafts. The falcon rides these invisible elevators to the very top of the skyline. Perched on a communication antenna, a large female scans the grid below. Hundreds of feet down, a flock of pigeons circles a park. She steps off the metal beam. She tucks her wings. The urban stoop begins. The dive is terrifying to witness in this confined space. She drops vertically down the face of a glass skyscraper. Her reflection blurs against the mirrored windows. The sound of the wind tearing over her feathers is swallowed by the ambient roar of the city. She accelerates past the 50th floor, the 40th, the 30th. The pigeons are suddenly aware of the shadow falling over them. They scatter, frantically beating their wings to reach the safety of a parking garage. It is too late. The falcon does not decelerate. She does not open her beak. She does not reach out with grasping talons like an eagle or a hawk. High-speed collision with open claws would snap the falcon's delicate toes. Snagging a target at 200 kilometers an hour would dislocate her legs. The kinetic energy is simply too massive to absorb through a grip. Dead, the peregrine strikes its prey with a clenched foot. In the final microsecond before impact, she swings her legs forward. She curls her razor-sharp talons inward, forming a tight, heavy fist. She becomes a biological hammer. The impact is explosive. It sounds like a sharp, echoing gunshot bouncing off the concrete buildings. She strikes the pigeon square in the back with her clenched foot. The transfer of energy is absolute. The sheer crushing force breaks the pigeon's spine instantly. A cloud of gray feathers erupts into the air, drifting slowly down toward the busy street below. The chase is over in a fraction of a second. The falcon swoops upward, bleeding off her incredible speed. She circles back to claim her prize. Here, the weight of the prey dictates her next move. A small bird can be caught mid-air as it tumbles, but the pigeon is dense and heavy. Attempting to carry it while flying at awkward angles between buildings is dangerous. Instead, heavy prey is simply dropped to the ground. Falcon allows the dead pigeon to fall freely. It lands with a dull thud on an empty rooftop or an abandoned balcony. The hunter then descends gracefully, landing beside her kill. She begins the meticulous process of plucking the feathers, totally unfazed by the sirens wailing on the streets below. Transition is complete. The wild killer has mastered the urban jungle. It seemed the Peregrine Falcon had solved every puzzle evolution and humanity could throw at it. It was invincible until the skies suddenly went empty. Mid-20th century brought an invisible threat. It was a puzzle that could not be solved by speed, size, or adaptation. It was a chemical war, and the Falcons were losing. Despite millions of years of dominance, despite surviving ice ages and urban sprawl, this perfect hunter was rapidly, quietly erased from the landscape. The decline was precipitous and terrifying. Historically active cliff sites sat empty year after year. The skies above the valleys grew quiet. The pigeons in the cities multiplied unchecked. The apex predator was vanishing, and no one knew why. There were no bodies to examine. There was no new super predator hunting the falcons. The adults simply stopped producing young. This race to solve the mystery. They scaled the towering cliffs to examine abandoned nests. What they found was deeply unsettling. The nests were littered with broken, crushed eggshells. The fragments were unnaturally thin. They flaked apart like dry paint. The puzzle was finally traced to a silent killer hiding within the food chain. The agricultural boom had introduced powerful synthetic chemicals to the environment. Pesticides like DT were sprayed indiscriminately over crops, forests, and wetlands. It was hailed as a miracle chemical. It killed mosquitoes and crop-eating pests with ruthless efficiency. But DT possessed a dark, hidden trait. It did not break down in the environment. It persisted. When insects consumed the sprayed plants, the toxin entered their bodies. When small songbirds ate hundreds of those insects, the chemical accumulated in their fat tissues. The concentration of the poison increased with every step up the food web. The Peregrine Falcon, sitting at the absolute top of this chain, absorbed massive, concentrated doses of the pesticide. The DD did not kill the adult falcons outright. Its effect was far more insidious. The accumulated chemicals severely disrupted the female falcon's calcium metabolism. When she laid her eggs, her body could not deposit enough calcium to form a sturdy shell. This resulted in catastrophic reproductive failure. The impossibly thin eggshells prevented the chicks from ever hatching. The tragedy played out in quiet agony high on the cliff ledges. A massive, powerful female would lay her clutch. She would gently settle her heavy body over the eggs to incubate them, just as her ancestors had done for millennia. But her very warmth and weight became lethal. Under the pressure of her own body, the fragile shells simply shattered. She was unknowingly crushing her own future. Entire populations crashed. The arithmetic was brutally simple. Without new generations to replace the aging adults, the species spiraled toward local extinction. In many regions, they were wiped out completely. The fastest creature on Earth could not outfly a chemical compound. The discovery of this biological magnification changed the world. It sparked the modern environmental movement. The undeniable evidence from the broken eggs forced governments to act. The widespread use of DT was ultimately banned. But banning the chemical was not enough. The wild populations were too fractured. The species needed unprecedented human intervention. What followed was one of the greatest conservation comebacks in recorded history. Scientists, falconers, and volunteers banded together. They took the few remaining healthy birds into captivity. They painstakingly bred them in specialized facilities. They constructed artificial hacking towers in remote locations and on city rooftops. They carefully raised the fragile chicks, hiding their human faces so the birds would remain wild. They released thousands of young falcons back into the empty skies. It was a monumental gamble. They were trusting a 2-million-year-old instinct to awaken in these captive-bred orphans. The gamble paid off. The young birds took to the air. They discovered the updrafts. They felt the pull of gravity. They learned to fold their wings and drop like stones. Today, the Peregrine Falcon has reclaimed its throne. The skies are no longer silent. The deep-time arsenal remains intact. The ultimate hunter still rules the high, freezing void and the vast, concrete canyons. It is a testament to resilience, a masterclass in adaptation, and a living, breathing puzzle that continues to inspire profound awe.